is happening through humor. I mean, one of the reasons why Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert have really tapped into the zeitgeist is because they're acknowledging this longing in people to connect with each other at a deeper level. I don't know how many of you went to their Washington rally to restore sanity. In a moment of irrational exuberance, when I was on Jon Stewart's show just before the rally, I offered to take anybody who wanted to go there from New York, a ride from New York, right? I did not realize at the time that 10,000 people would sign up. So we ended up having 200 buses leaving from Citi Field at 5 a.m. for the rally. But when I was there at 5 a.m. welcoming people, sleep deprived, I realized something very profound, that these people were saying to me, you know, I said, I flew from Minneapolis to take the bus. I flew from Denver to take the bus to go to Washington. And then I met somebody who said to me, I just flew from Washington to take the bus to go to Washington. And I thought to myself, you know, this is an act of insanity in the name of restoring sanity. But it showed again something very profound, that as we are hyper-connected, we are also longing to connect with each other as human beings. So my other prediction is that while we are going to be seeing a greater and greater explosion of everything digital, we are also going to be seeing a greater explosion of everything live. People will want to connect in their own communities. That's why we are betting on local, because they will want to connect with each other, to see each other, to look into each other's eyes, at the same time that they're spending hours and hours on Facebook or tweeting or watching videos on YouTube. I think, in fact, the more we do of the former, the more we will want to connect in a human way, in a live way. So in the same way that everything new has been watched with a kind of fear that it will completely replace everything old, this is not really what's happening. You know, the movies did not replace television, and television did not replace radio. We're just connecting with all that in different ways. And that's why I don't see the future as either or. In fact, I don't even see newspapers as dying. I see them as increasingly becoming different and having an active and vibrant online component if they're going to survive. But what is fascinating for me at the journalistic level is, how do we learn again to tell stories? You know, how do we go back to the old-fashioned tradition of storytelling? Because so much of our modern media is entirely consumed by data and facts. So I have actually assigned some of our reporters to do nothing else but putting flesh and blood on the stories. So don't tell me that we have 26 million people unemployed or underemployed. Tell me their stories. Tell me, what is it really like to graduate from college and not be able to get a job? How do you deal with that? And how do we deal with that as a country? And that's really the kind of journalism that I think is going to enchant and win hearts and minds in the future and in the present, because we are doing it right now, others are doing it right now, and we see the way that our readers engage with that. Yesterday we launched at the Huffington Post Media Group, which includes all AOL content now, a big campaign to support military families. And the response has been amazing. We tracked all the different issues that military families are facing. I can now take my jacket off because I'm wired. Okay, that's a good idea while it lasted. So we saw this amazing response from people wanting to do something for military families. You know, a woman wrote and said, can you connect me with this homeless military vet? I want to offer them a home in Chicago. And really stayed on it until we connected them. And again, in our section called Impact, which is a section we created dedicated to people reading the news and then taking action to help people or causes that they read about, the most significant shift is that news is now actionable. You know, you used to read something or watch something on TV and maybe your heart would be touched and then you'd go and make a cup of tea and forget about it. Now online you can take action right away. And that's why we have these widgets everywhere that encourage people to take action right away and to be able to do something with when their hearts are being touched and activated. So because I want to leave as much time as possible for questions and a discussion, which is the best part for me, I would just like to end by saying that if you look at the first 25 years of .com, and we've just had the first 25 years of .com, it has been like a time of online miracles. I mean, who could have predicted what would have happened in the last 25 years, right? I think we should kind of close our eyes and imagine the world 25 years ago before YouTube, before Twitter, before Facebook, before the Huffington Post. I mean, that's almost impossible to imagine. But as you look ahead, my crystal ball now sees even more explosive wonder. And the challenge will be to direct that combustible energy and that combustible creativity to solving our needs for more truth, more transparency, more wisdom, more enchantment, and more, much more digital advertising. Thank you. So Brent,
I'm right here?
I think you can hear me like that from this mic, right?
Yeah, you can go
so I
from,
can
you
take
should
my
be fine.
jacket off, yeah.
So let's pull up the house lights and see if we've got a couple of questions. We've got microphones here, here, and here. You can stay there, you could walk with me, it's up to you. I have a question to start, yes. Which is, you've been a little busy lately, and you're talking about solace and sleep, and I imagine your own sleep must have been somewhat impacted by the acquisition. So you're talking about all of these things you need to do to protect yourself. Tell us about your day. What are the islands that allow you to do the thinking that you're saying are so important for all of us, and yet at this extraordinarily busy time, I can't imagine that your islands might have been eroded a little bit. So what is your day like?
So in terms of my practical things that I do every day, I meditate every day. I try and meditate before I start my day. I have what I call my joy triggers. Now, joy triggers are irrational. You know, my joy triggers may not be your joy triggers, don't worry about that. Like, my joy triggers involve pictures of my children who are now in college. They're 21 and 19, but I have pictures of them when they were babies and much less problematic. And I have them everywhere, and they're a complete joy trigger. Then I have another joy trigger is a Starbucks cappuccino with one shot of espresso only and a green straw. When I look that, somehow it's a complete joy trigger for me. The other thing is I always have a song on my iPod that is the song of the moment. The moment may last 2 days, 2 weeks. I play it non-stop. I don't listen to anything else. It's the joy trigger. At the moment, it's very embarrassing, but I'm going to confess it here, right? The song of the moment is Chris Christopherson, The Taker. I'm sorry. It could have been Mozart, the Zauberflöte or something, but it's not.
I thought it was going to be Will I Am.
I love Will I Am too, but it's just, there's no reason, there's no rhyme or reason why. But so at any moment during the day, you can tap into your joy trigger, or tap into your killer app, whatever it is for you, meditation, yoga, whatever, and basically course correct. You know, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a pilot, and he said to me that most of the time planes fly off course. Did you know that? You may be worried now, but the only reason there aren't any more plane crashes is because they have such a fantastic course correcting mechanism. So a lot of the time we are off course, we make mistakes constantly. Instead of judging ourselves, we need to have a fantastic course correcting mechanism. Life is all about correcting your mistakes quickly. We launched a new section on the Huffington Post just before the merger on divorce. And one of the features of the section was something that we called the moment we knew, and it became hugely viral. We had people just who would say, the moment I knew, basically, that this was over, or the moment I knew she was having an affair, or the moment I knew, whatever. It was just incredible. And incidentally, the idea of the divorce section was Nora Ephraim, who's an editor-at-large with us, and she said, we must launch a section on divorce, because she said, marriage comes and goes, but divorce is forever. And that became our tagline. So, I mean, basically humor and joy triggers and something that provides course correcting are my keys to be able to do my life at a more intense level, since the integration has definitely meant just a lot of work, a lot of time spent bringing together two companies. It's worked kind of amazingly, given that normally integrations are really hard. I think part of it has been because our CEO, Tim Armstrong, was determined that we would do it really fast. So when the facilities people said to him, we can move everybody in the same office by the end of May, he said, pretend you are having a party, not an integration of two companies. Pretend your daughter is getting married. You have to do it by the end of March. And we did. And the day that the merger became legal, we also launched a 30-day volunteer effort for all the employees. And every office around the world that completed 100% participation would get Greek cookies and champagne, and Boston was first. So again, as a company, one of the things that has been so amazing for me about this merger is that our goals are so aligned. That what Tim wanted to do for AOL and what I want to do for the Huffington Post in terms of bringing us together and actually living all the things we are talking about, living our commitment to doing something good while at the same time doing well for the bottom line and for the company, need to permeate everything. And that's why we brought B. Stone as our strategic advisor for social impact, to work with him in identifying all the ways that we as a company can actually practice that, and at the same time put the spotlight on what other companies are doing around the world that have to do with corporate responsibility and have to do with doing well by doing good.
All right. We have a question. Tell us who you are.
Hi, Arianna. My name is Christian Grant from Executive Talks. You're not always politically correct, and sometimes you say things that people in Washington or journalists normally don't say. Where do you get all that courage from to say what you really feel?
Well, I remember when I was growing up in Greece and I studying Socrates. My God, I don't normally quote so many dead wise people, but Socrates said that courage is the knowledge of what is not to be feared. Most of the time we are afraid of our own shadows. Most of the time we're afraid of things that do not deserve to be afraid of. And I think that's really, for me, the most important thing. I wrote a book called On Becoming Fearless. And that's not really about being fearless in the sense of not being genuinely afraid, but it means not letting our fears get in the way of us doing or saying what we want to do, including taking risks. I mean, those of you working in this digital sphere, take risks all the time, because we're kind of reinventing the world all the time, and there are never any guarantees. I remember when we launched the Huffington Post, the overwhelming assumption was that it would be a complete failure. Indeed, Nikki Fink wrote about it on the first day. She called it the movie. I've learned the review by heart. She said the Huffington Post is the movie equivalent of Gigli, Heaven's Gate, and some other dreadful movie, all rolled into one. And then she said, this failure is simply unsurvivable. So you have to be willing to not let reviews like that or naysayers get in the way of what you want to do. And as I tell my daughters endlessly, you have to also be willing to fail along the way. I constantly talk to them about my failures. I constantly say to them, for example, my second book was rejected by 36 publishers. At some point, maybe at rejection number 25, I might have said, you know what? this is really the wrong job for me, I should do something else. So that's when you really, if you believe in something, perseverance is for me the key between failure and success. And also is the key to not being afraid about what people say about you, or how people perceive you, because that's really the road to inaction.
We have a question over here. Please tell us who you are.
Sure. Hi, Arianna. I'm Mike Boland. I'm an analyst with BIA Kelsey and a writer, and I'm actually one of your bloggers for HuffPost, so thank you for that. So people often ask me along those lines, do you get paid for that? And my answer is no, but it's exposure to 40 million uniques or something like that, which is better than a paycheck. So that's usually my answer to that question. I'm wondering what your answer is to some of the criticism that, in not my words, but in the words of the criticizers, you are kind of exploiting some of these voices, and what's your answer to that? And then also, how does that feed into your general strategy in terms of building an editorial product around many different a breadth of voices from industry?
Well, actually, I'm so glad you brought that up, because for me, blogging, which has been a very important part of the Huffington Post from day one, and will continue to be. In fact, we are migrating the blogging platform of the Huffington Post on all AOL sites and on all patches. All 800 towns will now have a blogging platform, which I think will increase engagement dramatically, because you'll be able to have anybody from the mayor to the kid that's participating in a high school game be able to blog, to upload pictures, video, whatever. And the commenting platform, which goes along with blogging, and last month alone we had 4 million comments, so we're migrating all that. That is like in its own bucket. That's really what the internet is about. That's what people do all the time, whether it's on Facebook, on their own blogs, on collective blogs, on Yelp, on Google, on any form of social media. People are blogging, and they're blogging because they want more and more people to be exposed to their ideas, their opinions, their books, their movies, either because they're selling something or because they believe in something that they want to share with others. And that's the brave new world. And there are no commitments, like I'm delighted you blogged for us, but if, say, you decided not to blog, nobody would bug you. And there are no deadlines. And then there is the other world of journalism. And we have hundreds of paid, with full benefits, etc., reporters and writers and editors who are, in a way, as Jason Lincoln, some media editor, wrote in a piece, providing the architecture and building it, if you want, building the field into which bloggers can come and have it all ready for them. The great technology, the great pre-moderation technology also, which means that when you blog, if somebody wants to attack you and use sort of vile language or ad hominem attacks, we're not going to let the comment through. So there will be also a similar environment in which the conversation can take place. But all that could not happen without all the paid people creating that architecture. So there's two very different worlds. Aggregation is a third bucket. And Tim Armstrong and I had an all-hands meeting at our office in Washington, in Dallas, Washington. I always say Washington also because otherwise people think I'm saying Dallas, Texas, one of the problems with my accent. So, during that meeting, I actually said that even if Tim Armstrong had suddenly said to me, you know what, you have $10 billion to produce original reporting, I would still aggregate. Because I believe that even if I had unlimited amounts of money to produce original reporting, I could not claim that we are the only source of good reporting and good writing. And I would want our readers, and now unduplicated, we have 250 million unique visitors around the world. I would like them to come to us and know that they're going to have access to the best writing, the best news, the best information, the best services around the world, either that we produced or that we curated for you. And that's a great service. And so for me, these are different buckets, and the best media companies of the 21st century are going to excel in all these three areas, and the fourth one being engagement through commenting.
We have time for one more question. Please tell us who you are.
Hi,